Welcome to the weekly news around Bali and Asia. My name is Bruce Pullman, and I'm going to be talking about the news every week. These are short newscasts about topics of interest to those of us that live or visit Bali or Asia. I'll be covering all of Asia and maybe a little bit in Melanesia, another of my interest. And I'm an anthropologist. This newscast is coming to you from the Peripatetic Anthropologist YouTube channel. This is the weekly news around Bali and Asia. My name is Bruce Pullman, and this is the news for the week of March 29, 2020. And let's start off with what else? The coronavirus. I was talking to a friend last night in the Czech Republic, and he started off our conversation with, what are we going to talk about other than the coronavirus? Isn't that what everybody in the world's talking about? Indeed, it seems to be. So let's start with the coronavirus, but I am going to cover a few other things just to kind of get us off that topic a little bit today. But first, let's take a look at Indonesia. Number of cases continues to rise, along with the number of deaths, as there are now testing kits available and people are being tested here. And the epicenter is still in Jakarta, and it was announced today that the state of emergency is going to be extended in Jakarta. And what's going to happen there? Because we have Ramadan coming up next month. And after Ramadan, at the end of Ramadan, of course, is Eid al-Fitr, and in Indonesia, that phenomenon called mudik, when everybody goes home to where they're from. They go back to their villages, and that means Jakarta empties out. And with Jakarta being the epicenter, that's going to be a problem. And the government is trying to decide at this point if they're going to ban mudik. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. President Jokowi is still fighting against a complete lockdown of the country, although he has agreed to let regional authorities institute different types of lockdowns, although the government is not calling them lockdowns, they're calling them quarantines, and I'm going to get to a few of those a little later. Some good news. I mentioned before last week that up here that medical workers in Indonesia were working without PPE, personal protective equipment, and some people were wearing raincoats, and you can see here as an example. Well, good news is that some PPE from UNICEF arrived, including masks, boots, gloves, body bags, protective glasses, and more. So good news. Thanks to UNICEF for that. However, that's not enough. And in a story that I just came across today, and this is one of the problems about talking about the virus anywhere in the world, but especially in Indonesia, things are happening so quickly here. There's updates sometimes by the hour. And and so it's hard to keep up with what's going on here. So despite the equipment arriving, thanks to UNICEF, medical workers associations in Indonesia have threatened to stop treating COVID-19 patients if the government does not ensure the availability of protective health gear. And this was a joint statement that was issued by several medical workers associations, including the Indonesian Medical Association, the Indonesian Dentists Association, and the Indonesian Nurses Association. And they said in their statement, if they, meaning medical workers, are infected with the disease, who will treat patients at medical facilities? There have been, so far, at least 10 medical workers have died over the past few weeks who were treating COVID-19 patients. So, what was the government's response? The government says that they are using the military, TNE, to distribute 151,000 pieces of protective equipment from the National Warehouse at Halim Air Base, and they're running out, unfortunately. But the statement from the Coordinating Political, Legal, and Security Affairs Minister, Mahfoud, said that we were slightly worried after realizing that the equipment had started to run out, but we have prepared the budget to buy more. We are optimistic to address the issue, since many local manufacturers have also committed to producing more protective equipment. This is happening all over the world, and as I said last week, it's absolutely outrageous. Countries need to protect people on the front lines first. And for those of you hoarding masks and other equipment that can be used by medical personnel, think of them first. They're the most important people right now. Okay, let's go on. And in Bali, we've been kind of in a state of semi-lockdown here, up in Bulaling, well, all over the island. In Bulaling, not many people are going out, although the market is still full. Yesterday, the Bupati, the head of the regional government, announced that the traditional markets would be open from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., 4 hours every day. My wife went there this morning and she said it was packed, absolutely packed, with most people not wearing masks and no thought of space between people. So this is not a good situation. I can understand why you may want to restrict the hours of the market, but it leads to situations like this, overcrowding and people getting too close to each other, especially people that are not covering up. And schools are still closed. They were supposed to open on Monday, tomorrow, but yesterday Denpasar announced the schools would be closed indefinitely there. Schools in Bulaling are going to be closed for at least one more week. I haven't seen the directive yet. I don't know if a directive is out yet, but I was informed by my daughter that my granddaughter will not be going to school for another week. And that leads us to the next story, online education. So, schools all over the world closed. What happens to the students? Well, most countries have instituted some type of online education. And that's great. And it's a way for kids to continue their education. It's also a chance for parents to give them something to do if they're in a situation where they're locked down, for example, and they can't go out, or in a situation where they're just at home. And if you have young children, you know they can be a little pesky when they get bored. And so that we have a couple of reasons why we want to have some type of education going on. So online education, and that's great. And as somebody who was involved in technology and educational technology for many years as a technology coordinator in a number of international schools, there are many ways that online education can be delivered in an interesting and efficient way. But people need to be trained. So there are a number of problems with this that need to be solved. One, in developing countries, is the technology available. Excuse me, computers, web cameras, microphones, monitors, all of the internet connection, and a solid internet connection. That's just from the school's position. And then at home, does everybody have access to a computer or a tablet? Can you use phones to access the education? If you can use phones, then, well, in Indonesia, everybody has a phone. So there's a question of equipment. Secondly, there's a question of training teachers how to deliver education, how to deliver content. I was talking to a university teacher the other day in China, and she was telling me, well, you know, I'm learning how to do this. I took a week of training, and, you know, I think I get it, but I'm doing a 90-minute class, and I don't know. I said, wow, 90 minutes, that's a long time to do an online class, so what are you doing? And she's working on finding ways to spice up her lessons. It takes some training, as I said. Now, in Korea, university students have complained that the quality of online education is not the same as actually being in a university classroom, and they've asked for a reduction in fees. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I can certainly understand it. And there have been complaints from parents and students that the quality of online education is not the same as in the classroom. Well, in the physical classroom. That could be true, but I'd like to remind parents and students that this is an ongoing thing. We're in a new situation. We need to give the teachers a chance to develop their skills, the schools a chance to figure out how they're going to deliver their curriculum, and eventually the quality will rise. So good luck to those teachers who are learning some new skills. I'm sure that your students will appreciate it greatly. And another non-coronavirus story, and this one is a little bizarre. This goes under the why the hell do people do this kind of stuff category. Okay, we had Nyepi, as I mentioned before. Nyepi was last week, Wednesday, 25th of March, and on Nyepi, the day of silence, nobody is allowed to be out. The only people that are out are the Pechalang, the traditional security, Balinese traditional security, and they're out to keep the peace, make sure that people are not out doing things. Well, in this instance, and you see this photo here, an American tourist decided that he was going to go for a jog on Nyepi, and despite, according to the news report, despite the staff at the villa where he was staying telling him that it was not allowed, he decided to go anyway. He was stopped by the police and then let go for reasons that are unclear by the video that went viral of him in a confrontation with Pechalang, and they were telling him, no, sorry, you can't go, go home. And he said, look, this is your religious ceremony, it's got nothing to do with me, you know, I can do what I want to. Well, it was at the point where it was about to get physical, and that was the end of the video. And as you saw in the photo, he was chained up and delivered back to his villa, where the situation was explained to him once again, and apparently that was that. Now, this happens every year. You get tourists, despite the fact that there's information from the hotels and homestays about Nyepi and what Nyepi is and what's allowed and what's not allowed. You get foreigners who insist that they're going to do what they want to, regardless of the situation, regardless of the fact that this is an extremely important day in the Balinese yearly calendar. So, show some respect for countries that you're visiting if you are a traveler or a tourist. Okay, and let's go on to one more thing. So you're at home. What are you going to do? I've heard some people, oh, I'm bored. Well, there's been some memes out about that. Think about what other people have done, sacrifice in other situations. All you're doing is staying at home watching TV. Shut up. Enjoy yourself. Take a break. Make some food. Learn something new. A friend of mine decided that she'd learn how to cook. She doesn't know how to cook. So she's been cooking and sending me photos of all of her new culinary masterpieces. So you can do that. Or you can do, I found something really interesting, and this is a class. So take a class. Quit whining, take a class. And Yale University is offering their most popular class ever online for free through the Coursera platform. And it's the course is called Psychology of the Good Life, and it's taught by Professor Lori Santos at Yale University. And the course covers the following topics: misconceptions about happiness, why our expectations are so bad, how can we overcome our biases, stuff that really makes us happy, and putting strategies into place. Now, I've gone through the first week of this. It's very interesting. Happiness. It's something I talk about with my friends a lot, my friends around the world. What is happiness? Why am I not happy? Or why am I happy? If you want to know the science of happiness and find some ways to make yourself a little happier, take a look at this course. It's free and really not much homework to do. So check it out. The link is down below. So, virus update. What's happening? Bali. We have, for the first time in a long time, more tourists leaving than arriving in Bali in the month of March. And so the month of March, the numbers so far, we still have a few days left, entering 169,000. Wow. We still have 169,000 that came in this month. Leaving 253,000. Last March, number of tourists entering 449,000. And the main visitors this year, this month, Aussies 40,000, Russians 11,000, Brits 11,000, Japanese 9,000, Americans almost 9,000. That's interesting. And Indians 8,000. So now I think we still have a couple thousand tourists that are, from what I've read on social media, that are still here, that haven't gone home. Some that want to go home are trying to figure out how to do it. Others that have just decided to stay in Bali. probably not a wise decision if they get sick, because what kind of resources do they have? You're here, you're here. Good luck. And back to what I was talking about at the first part of the newscast about these soft lockdowns. So what do we have here? We have Maluku, limited access to airports and ports, and they are calling on residents to stay home. Arrivals and departures by land, sea, and air are limited except for important and urgent matters. And this happened after they had their first case, which came from a resident who was returning home from Java and to his home in Ambon, and he brought the virus back with him. And as I said when I was talking about Mudik, this is one of the things people are concerned about, is with Java and particularly Jakarta being the epicenter of the virus here, is that people go back home for Idul Fitri, Lebaran, and they're going to bring the virus with them. And so, Maluku's. Papua, shut down. No sea, air travel for the next 2 weeks, minimum. However, transportation for goods is still allowed, and this happened after they had their first 2 cases last week, and this is going to affect people that are going to Raja Ampat or diving, and you do not want to be in Papua with the virus. I've lived in Papua for 9 years. I've been there working on other projects, giving lectures. Medical facilities are slim and barely adequate. And so stay home, no traveling. And Tagal in Central Java has closed its borders for 4 months. Until July 31st. According to the mayor, they're going into full lockdown, and the city is in a state of emergency. This happened after they had their first confirmed case of the coronavirus. And Jakarta, residents of Sleman Regency, have limited access to several hamlets around the Regency, and there are signs up in these hamlets that say forbidden to enter. You're going to see more and more of this, I think, as the virus continues to develop in Indonesia. And one final note. I know that the incompetent in chief in the United States likes to blame China for the virus, and this has become something of a problem worldwide, with people all over blaming other people, sometimes blaming the Italians in Europe, blaming foreigners. Some of that has started to go on here. Countries saying that we're in the situation where we have things under control except for these people coming into our country. So let's not play the blame game. Let's work together on this. If we're going to close down your borders, but don't blame outsiders. And that's about it for today. I wish I could say things are getting better, but things in the United States, Italy, Spain, looking bad these days. Indonesia, we're adding 100 to 150 cases a day here. In Bali, I think we're still at 6 or 9 confirmed cases. I'm not sure right now what it is because it changes constantly, and so that's it. So I'm not going to say happy travels today. Stay home, stay safe. Thanks for visiting.